students. Today we are going to learn a very short poem by Robert Frost, an American poet. The name of the poem is Dust of Snow. Robert Lee Frost was born on March 26, 1874, and he was died on January 29, 1963. He was very much admired for his depictions of the rural life of New England, his command of American colloquial speech, and his realistic verse portraying ordinary people in everyday situations. This poem, Dust of Snow by Robert Frost, is a simple and short poem, yet with a deeper and larger meaning. The poet explains how an act as petty as experiencing snow on one's body can brighten up his day. Let us see the central idea of the poem, central theme of the poem. The poet expresses the significance of small things in changing one's attitude. Most of the time, we don't care about the small things or changes that happen in our life. But according to Robert Frost, these things can bring about huge changes in one's life. So in this poem, the poet talks about snowflakes, he talks about crow, and he talks about the hemlock tree, which is a very poisonous one. The poet appreciates the beauty of the snowflakes, which changed his mood and saved many precious moments from being wasted away. Now, let us see what small things brought about that positive changes in his day. Let's see the poem. The dust of snow. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. The poet set his poem in a scene where the poet is in a bad mood and is walking by a tree, a hemlock tree, which is a very poisonous one. As he passes by, a crow happens to throw some snow of dust on him. Whether it falls on his head or shoulders is not known to us. It's not specified. It's not mentioned in the poem. Also, the readers are left in doubt about the bird's specific action. Why whether the crow was landing on the branches of the tree, or it was shivering with cold, or readjusting itself on the branch of, or taking off. It happened to send some particles of snow upon the poet. This is what happened. Here, the two agents of nature, two negative agents of nature, we can say, the hemlock tree and the crow, are signifiers of sadness and gloom, just like the poet's mood was in the opening scene. In the opening scene, the poet was gloomy, and those two things appeared before him. They were also gloomy, but only one positive thing was there, that was the snowflakes. From a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. From reasons unknown, we do not know the reason why the poet is sad. The poet was having a terrible day, but the falling of the snow on his head lifted his mood instantly. He had already spent his day in a bad mood, but the rest of it was saved by the crow and the hemlock tree. Generally, hemlock tree and crow are used for negative references, but here in this poem, the poet used them beautifully to portray that unfortunate or adverse things can bring about joy and happiness too. In short terms, in short, the poet gives us the message that we must not take things for granted and should be open and accept whichever way nature chooses to bless us. And that's all the poem. Let us look at the poetic devices used in the poem. Of course, the poem has got a specific rhyming scheme: A, B, C, D, C, D. And the other poetic device that is used by the poet in this poem is alliteration. The occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words, we call that as that type of usage of words in a poem as alliteration. Has given my heart, has heart, H and H we can say that sound. Saved some and saved some part, saved some. These two are good examples of alliteration. Then assonance is the other poetic device that is used by the poet. The prominence of a vowel sound throughout a line is called assonance. In stanza 1, line 2, shook down on me, shook down on. In shook, O sound, down O sound, on O sound. These three vowel sounds in consecutive words in the same line. This prominence of one single vowel sound we call as assonance. Then another poetic device that is used by the poet in this poem, Dust of Snow, is enjambment. When the same sentence continues to the next line without the use of any punctuation mark, it is called enjambment. The entire poem is a good example of enjambment. And that's all the technical side of the poem. And coming down to the summary, let us sum up this poem. In a nutshell, let's see the poem. The short poem by Robert Frost, Dust of Snow, throws light upon the unimaginable healing power of nature and tiny things, very small things. From a bad mood to ill health, there is nothing that can't be cured by nature. Anything can be cured by nature. It can be a bad mood, or it can be a bad health, ill health, anything. The poet was experiencing one such bad day when a crow's movement near a hemlock tree dusted snow upon him. The snow instantly makes him happier. His day gets brighter, a lot better. Thus, the supremacy of nature as a whole made him realize how petty his problems was. The fact that hemlock tree is poisonous, combined with the crow being the indicator of doom and fear, are used in the poem as the carriers of happiness in the life of the poet. It's an ironical one. The poet, through these objects, has tried to highlight that sometimes creatures linked with negative aspects of life can be bringers of change and happiness. Being outdoors in nature with all its unpredictability can benefit anyone, anywhere and anytime.